Hi, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment telling me about your favorite part.
Hey, hi everyone, and welcome to Actor Nightcap. My name is Adetinpo Thomas, and Actor Nightcap is under the umbrella of the Storyteller Sessions. Storyteller Sessions is an organization where on Tuesdays and Thursdays, writers and actors get together and actors read the scripts written by the writers in the group, and they give their feedback, and everyone grows, and it's lovely. If you aren't a member of that group on Facebook and following them on Twitter and Instagram, go do that. Here at Actor Nightcap, we have late night industry chats to benefit the actors, actor focused, but of course that helps everyone, I would think. And if you have questions, feel free to ask them, if whether or not they're related. But we started the series in October. I can't believe it. It's almost been, I don't math good, but several months. We started with the craft. We talked about how the body works when it comes to acting, the mind. We talked about our materials with Alex Collins, which was invaluable. We talked to Taylor Thomas, the agent, about what agents do and how that works. We talked to Erica Bream, who is a casting director in the Southeast region and who's a lovely person and was very generous. And now we have Jacob Lawson, the owner and talent agent at Privileged Talent Agency in Atlanta, Georgia. One of the premier, no, but it is one of the best. Okay, bias aside, it truly is one of the best agencies in Atlanta, and some of the best agents in Atlanta as well. I've never met anyone who's had anything negative to say about you, Jacob. So I mean
Nice.
that. So
That's
welcome
good.
everyone to the show, and Jacob Lawson, welcome. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
Happy to be here. Yeah, I'm doing great. Happy to interact with you guys and hopefully give you guys a perspective that you don't hear so often. So I know you guys as actors sort of get in your grind and get in your routine of auditioning and, maybe hearing back, maybe not hearing back. But what that looks like on my end can be a little bit different from what you guys are experiencing. So hopefully, hopefully we have a good conversation. Everybody walks away learning something new.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you. My partner is trying to squeeze by without getting in the frame, but he's near the edge of the frame, and I was just amused enough not to say anything. I love you.
It was undetected on my end.
He was
I
being
think
very
he got,
stealthy, everyone. He
yeah,
respects this group.
I
So
think he did it.
let me read your bio first and foremost. Oh, I lost it. And then I'll ask you some questions.
All right.
So, Jacob. Oh, do you prefer Jacob or Jake?
I prefer Jacob. So yeah, my parents Jake was just assigned to me as a young kid. And I was like, it sounds like there's an old country song called Please Feed Jake. It's about the guy who he wants somebody to take care of his dog. His dog's name was Jake. So for some reason, when I was a kid, I was like, that's not me. I want to be Jacob. So once I moved out of high school and went to college, I just started going by Jacob. So I prefer Jacob.
Okay.
But people I've known my whole life call me Jake.
Yeah. But also your handle on Instagram is Jake the Snake.
Well, that's 7 or 8 years old. So that was I think I was in college when I made that. So
Ooh,
maybe I was just,
because you can change that.
yeah, I'm going to leave it.
I was like, there's a story. I need to know what the story is. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Bio. See, it's the Max. It's the Mac doing a Mac thing. I don't understand what's happening. I'm sorry. Jacob has been with Privileged Talent Agency since its inception in 2013. Since taking over the agency in 2016, Privileged Talent has developed its roster from a collection of day players to recurring guest stars, series regulars, and leads in feature films. Normally, my first question is, tell me what your bio didn't tell us, which was everything. Who are you? What do you do? Where are you from?
Yeah. I try to keep those pretty simple. But yeah, I'm from South Georgia originally, small town called Albany, Georgia. Grew up, graduated high school there, then moved to Athens and went to UGA.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I went to Georgia. I was a biology pre-med student over there. Graduated and wanted to take a gap year. So all of my friends from back home were living in Atlanta. When you grow up in Albany, it's basically you go to Florida or you go to Atlanta when you get out of high school. So that was sort of always where I thought I would be. So came over to Atlanta, spent some time living on my brother's couch, and took a job selling computers at Costco.
Wait, is Corey older than you? I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
Corey's.
I
Yeah,
have
yeah,
some
Corey.
follow-up questions in the middle of you giving your like abridged bio.
That's a relevant question. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Corey's a year and 10 days older than me. So we grew up with the same friends. We shared a bedroom until he moved out to go to college. It was very, yeah, it's a lot of people who don't know us well think we're twins, but we're not twins, but we're pretty close. And so, yeah, I graduated college, moved into his apartment with like a bag of clothes and lived there for several months until me and him and two of my other friends got one of those 4-bedroom houses and did the whole everybody has a bedroom thing, which was cool coming off of a couch. But during that time, I took a job selling computers at Costco. Well, I could figure out like if I wanted to go to grad school, take the MCATs, that would be a lot of studying. And the idea of going back to school was always like a financial thing, rather than like, I'm really passionate about something that I could do in this field after I graduated. So anyway, I was working at Costco selling computers, and a lady named Sue Bernritter came in one day. She had just moved over from LA. Her daughter was living here. She was an actor. And she came over to buy a computer, and she said, you know, I started a company, need some help with computer stuff. So I sold her 2 computers. And then on her way out of the store, she asked me if I would come essentially give her computer lessons and help them to do some of the technically mediated stuff that comes with, you know, creating online profiles and registering services and stuff like that. So started doing that with her, worked with them for, I think, probably 3 years. 2016 was the year I took over the company. So it really came out of nowhere. And in the amount of time that I was working and sort of deciding if I want to go back to school, I'd lost a lot of interest in going back to school, but I've always felt like I had to do it. Like I wouldn't know what to do with if I didn't do it. Like when you're in school, you sort of have an identity where you can escape the questions of like, what are you doing? You're like, oh, I'm a student. So
Right.
when I came out of that for a year, I thought it would be like a breath of fresh air, and I would have a relaxing time. And I've sort of had an identity crisis. And then this lady comes in and presents this incredible opportunity to me in the middle of my identity crisis. And a lot of that emotion and stuff that goes into those things sort of just fueled this thing that sort of fell in my lap. It was like, you know, if I don't do everything I can to maximize this opportunity, I'm going to be a total idiot. So
that is wild to me. So you are the owner of a talent agency and a talent agent because you worked at Costco and sold computers.
Yeah. And that was one of the things for, I mean, a solid 2 years. I was working under Sue
of course
for like 3 years. So it's easy to do that where like I don't have to expose myself to anybody. Like I don't have to take risks, or I can always ask her. She had a good understanding of the industry, but just couldn't type a long email in any amount of time. So I was churning the wheels from her, and then also learning how to operate and that sort of thing. And her daughter Stephanie was very knowledgeable too. So yeah, I came into this perfect situation where I was learning under these people who had an idea of what was what. I had a ton of pent up energy where I felt like I wasn't doing enough, what I was capable of doing. And then all of a sudden this opportunity comes. So I just sort of had an attitude of anytime I need to do anything for this company, I'll just do it so well that it would never make sense for them to have to do it again. Like I'll just do it, you know. And over about a 2.5 year period, it got to a point where I was doing most of the stuff for the agency because it just made sense. She was doing like a lot of the negotiating and stuff like that, but distributing information, scheduling callbacks, rescheduling callbacks, you know, all that kind of stuff. It was a really good learning lab for me. And it got to a point around 2016 where they basically, Sue's husband was still in LA, that's where they're from. So she wanted to move back. And we worked out an agreement where I would buy the company from her over a course of 5 years. So it was like a payment system. And yeah, that was probably the best day of my life when that happened. And I felt like I knew that then. I think I made $8,000 the first year of running the company. But at that point, I was like, I can't believe I have something that's mine.
Oh, is that not a lot of money? Oh, okay, sorry. Like
Yeah, no,
80,000.
no, eight,
You're like
eight,
embarrassed by eight.
eight. Yes.
And they said 80, and I was like,
No,
wow.
no. I meant like $600 a month, but it was like 12 hours a day. Like I could never put it down. But you know, I was living with 3 people who had jobs, and it was like I had good friends, which is great. But yeah, thinking back on that, like that never bothered me. I mean, it bothered me. It sucked. I would get the 10-pound bag of trail mix from Costco and be like, this is what I'm eating for a while. But even doing that, I was like, this is fine because this is something that I can grow. This is something that's mine. Like I have creative control of like what I think makes sense. I don't have to run it by anybody, which is an insane thing to think, because obviously in negotiating, an entire production has to agree to some degree to what you think is right. So, but the idea was so exciting and energizing to me that like the first 3 years of it was just like, it's like being a toddler. Every day you walk outside, there's a good chance you're going to see something new, which is like exciting because you don't really know what the world is. That's how I felt with the agency. Like your first big feature film booking, your first series regular, your first guest star, like all that stuff was like wild. And a lot of it we were banging out pretty quickly, like between 16 and 19, right before the COVID shut down. But yeah, and then COVID stopped the industry for a little while, but obviously Tyler Perry, I guess that's not obvious. I don't know if everybody in here is from Atlanta or actively in Atlanta, but Tyler Perry bought a military base and got people back to work responsibly after only a couple months of Atlanta being shut down. So that was huge for me. I'm sure it was huge for a lot of the smaller and bigger agencies in Atlanta. But yeah, that's how I got started. It's a crazy story. Sometimes people say like you or somebody should write that story, but I feel like if that was written as a screenplay or something, it would be so like that would never happen to somebody, so it would be stupid in a sense. So
it's so ridiculous. No one would believe it if they watched it.
Stranger than fiction is sort of how I think about it. But yeah, I try to work in a way that honors that opportunity, because if she had gone to Best Buy or a different Costco, I have no idea what I'd be doing right now.
I am stunned because
you didn't know all that?
No. I've met you once in person.
That is crazy to think about too, because I see my
December
actors every
2019. So like,
yeah, you guys don't see me near as much as I see you guys, and I forget that every time I talk to an actor, because I'll watch your tapes. You know, that takes a lot of time, but I try to watch tapes and stay involved. But I try to watch everybody's tapes sporadically, so I feel like I'm seeing you guys, and I've never sent you guys a tape of anything. So
I didn't realize you. I mean, obviously, I assumed you like keep up with what we're doing, but I didn't know that you like make a point to truly watch, which is really exciting. Thanks for doing that.
Because, yeah, it's seasonal. You know, if it's episodic season or something, it's rare. But in the dog days of summer, in January, when everybody's sort of slowly getting, I like to do it, but it is something that's not. I don't view myself as somebody who's ever going to call you and be like, hey, you need to do that differently. I don't coach my actors. If there's something technically wrong, if there's a sync issue, or if I know that you slated incorrectly, that's something. But I don't view it as like I'm going to have some sort of input on this, because that's just sort of my philosophy is I've never done what you guys do. So you guys should learn from people who have done what you do. I think that works better. I know I can watch a tape and be like, this is, somebody has to see this. And if they do, this is going to go somewhere. Like I can tell what works, but as far as trying to change what somebody who's put a lot of time and energy into something, who is a professional at doing what they're doing, I just don't view that as, I'm not part of that system. I'm just trying to sell what you're already doing. But I do watch them sometimes. That's the long answer.
I also, just in my flabbergasted state, it makes sense that that's the story, because there's so much heart in the way you carry yourself in the industry, and also in your interactions with your actors, your clients, clients? Is clients the word?
Clients, I guess, yeah. Or yeah. I mean, yeah, they're interchangeable.
because I think
I'm not offended by either one of them.
it takes a secure person, but also a capable person, to not let ego get involved when it comes to what ends up happening back and forth in these email exchanges, and then working with different producers and whoever. I don't mean to put like, blow your head up. I'm just saying that's dope and you're cool and this makes sense. This all tracks and it's on brand. My first question was, how did you start in the industry? And now we know that if you want to start a life-changing career, go sell computers at Costco. Yeah. Question number 2. And this is kind of the meat and potatoes of what I imagine everybody's here for today. So get your pencils out, get your pens out, get your questions ready. What should beginning actors know when it comes to them finally booking and getting the offer and trying to figure out how to negotiate things?
Yeah, so that definitely depends on the project. If you're looking at something, a lot of times people's first bookings are like independent films or something where it's a lot less regulated. It's a lot more open to negotiation. If somebody's first booking or first meaningful booking is like a day as a waiter on a network television show, like that's a great credit. If it's your first credit, it's a network credit, but there's not a lot of leverage there to move anything. And the conversation that I have with a lot of my people, because Atlanta is definitely getting to a point where the people who have been here and they've been doing it for 5 or 6 years and they're booking 4 or 5 things one year, which turns into 7 or 8 things the next year. You want to get to a point where you're willing to say no. I think one of the biggest, and this is not advice for new actors. I'm already skipping to advanced.
Yeah, actors. Sorry. So that is for seasoned actors. If you're
yeah. So I'm going to backtrack real quick. I'm going to get back to
what is the process? Actually, let's do it like this. Hi, my name is Adetinpo, 5'7", Atlanta, Georgia, and I just booked my first one-day co-star on The Resident. What happens now?
Okay, so congratulations. That's a great show. And that's going to make my job a lot easier, getting you future opportunities, having a network credit like that. Most of those type of roles are going to be like boilerplate SAG deals, unless you're coming in from like Nashville or something. It's possible to book something where we can get hotel and stuff covered. But for the most part, it's going to be a standard SAG contract. We'll try to get, if they're needed, if you're out of town or something, we try to get that adjusted. But I'm going to send you a document for all your production info. Production's going to contact you. They're going to reach out about scheduling a COVID test and a fitting sometime before your shoot. You're going to go and do that. Your fitting is going to be paid hourly based on your day rate. So if it's 2 hours, it's whatever your day rate is, which is most likely going to be scale plus 10, paid over 2 hours. So I think it's like right over $100, like $120 an hour right now. It changes every 6 months. But yeah, so you're going to get COVID tested. Production's supposed to pay $250 to get that. They're going to pay you and it's not going to be on there. And I'm going to have to go track it down, but that's okay. Because we're going to get that because they know they owe you that money and they're going to try to not pay it. And then you're going to go to set. You're going to get an Exhibit G, which is going to be your timesheet. Mileage, if you're coming in from out of town, and everybody knows that. If you're working local to Atlanta and you did come out from out of town, you can leave the mileage part blank. If you need to use your own wardrobe, that's where you put that. That's basically the document that's going to go to payroll. That's going to tell payroll how much to draft from production's money to send to you. So production takes in all your information about your shoot when you're on set, but then they send it to a third-party company that processes all that information. So sometimes when your check comes back incorrectly, it's because production did not record your information correctly. Sometimes it's because payroll processed your information incorrectly. So there's one of two things could have gone wrong, but basically that's going to be your process. You're going to show up, you're going to sign in, you're probably going to hit hair and makeup. Adetinpo can speak more to what a day in the life on set is. I used to go to set. It's harder to do that for me now, obviously. It's just an extra risk factor for the set. But I look forward to going back to set because it is fun. But yeah, and then normally if you shoot on a Tuesday, payroll is going to process your payment on Friday. They're going to send it to the payroll, or production's going to process your payment, send it to the payroll company. So normally you should have your check within like 2 to 3 weeks. It will be incorrect. You should take a photo of your pay stub when you get it and send it to your agent so that they can fix whatever's wrong with it. But yeah, and then if everything goes well, 5-6 months later, your show comes out, we get some great footage, we add it to your reel. If it's a meaningful addition to your reel, I'll take that and send it to the casting directors around town and be like, hey, Adetinpo just did The Resident. Doesn't she look great? I saw you were doing this new thing for Vampire Diaries. I think she'd be good for it. It's a good conversation starter. So you want to get your footage as soon as you can once it comes out, and then start the process over.
Okay, so that's actually a good place to start as well, or at least a good question to ask. Just for everybody, I know we talked about this a little bit when Taylor was here, but from when you see the breakdown to the actors gotten paid for the work they did, let's say on a series that, you know, knocks them out pretty quickly, how long is that time process?
A lot of times it depends on what the show is. If it's a pilot or if it's a movie, that process can be 3 months. If it's a television show, it can be as short as a week. So with TV, I get breakdowns every day that have urgent in all caps on it. And it's like, today's a Wednesday, we're releasing this breakdown at 10 o'clock a.m. We need all submissions in by noon. Auditions will be out by 3:30. They'll be due by 3:30 the next day, and then it'll be working Monday, probably COVID testing that Friday. So TV is really quickly paced. And then movies, I can get a breakdown for a movie that's going to start shooting in November. And it's like, most of the time when it's that far out, they're looking at leads, major supporting, they're trying to see what names are out there. So every process can be different when it comes to pace. But most of the time, it's sometimes like 2 weeks. So it's like the breakdown comes to me, I'll do submissions on a Monday, maybe on a Wednesday, I'll submit 10 people for a role. We'll get the audition on Wednesday for 4 people to audition. They'll be due Friday. The next week, maybe Monday or Tuesday, I'll get a callback list or avail checks, and then they'll be closing that week most of the time.
Okay, that makes sense. And for everybody too, it's a great tip to cover your ass and take a picture of your Exhibit G, because sometimes they're trying to say like, oh no, but we didn't, and you have a picture.
Yes.
Of it. Nothing that can
be. Or this happened to me. It didn't happen to me. Nothing has happened to me in this sense, but I had a client who was, he did a fitting and it was 2 hours long and his Exhibit G said 1 hour. And it was on a show where they had a ton of turnover in the production office. And they were like, just sign it and we'll fix it later. And he was like, okay, yeah. And he did it. And it's like, now I have to like go through all kinds of evidence to convince production that it was 2 hours. So yeah, if you should never sign something that's not accurate, because a lot of times I can get it fixed, but it's just way, way harder. I would rather a second AD call me, because if your fitting was 2 hours and it says 1 hour, they're not going to call me. They're just going to change it. But they want you to sign it so maybe they can save $120. So don't sign anything that's not accurate, and don't feel like you can't contact me if they're trying to get you to do that.
So you can always call your agent. If something feels uncomfy, call your agent. If the things don't look right and you're asking questions and people are being dodgy, call your agent and take a picture of your Exhibit G. And just to recap that, because that was the simplified, if you're new version, is you get the email saying that you got the offer. You say, yay, thank you. And then you get the email requesting your information. That gets sent off. In terms of negotiating.
Yeah, I mean, again, if it's a small movie, if it's like, because sometimes your first booking could be a major supporting role on a student film and they're offering $100 a day. Sometimes I'll say, well, this person has to take off work. This person has a full-time job. let's make it $300 a day. This is a good actor. It's an important role. You want your movie to be good. You don't want this to just be somebody who's willing to take the rate.
Mhm.
A lot of times they'll do what they can. Sometimes they'll do what's called favored nations, which means that every performer of a certain category makes the same rate and it's a guarantee.
Mm.
If I book a client on a smaller movie that is favored nations and it's a bigger role and warrants it, I'll negotiate like a publicity fee, something in the language of the contract where you'll get a block amount of money that's not technically attached to your day rate. So favored nation means that everybody has to be making the same day rate, but you can sometimes negotiate loopholes outside of like the standard language. And that's possible, but that's what sometimes for somebody like me, that's what makes smaller projects more fun, because you can sort of figure out what there is there versus like getting a boilerplate offer on a very small role on a big project. You'll still make $1,000 for the day, which is pretty good, but it's very unlikely that any of the terms will be movable at all.
And can you explain boilerplate?
It's just like all the language is the same. It's like a copy and paste. Like there's no variation to it at all.
Okay. Now, for more seasoned actors.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Adetinpo, 5'7" Atlanta, Georgia, and I just booked a series regular on The Boys. What happens? Or should we start guest star? Series regular might be complicated.
Yeah, I mean, the complications increase as you go up for sure. Guest star, most of the time, well, if it's a network show, so if it's a cable show, there's nothing, guest star is just a word. So you're still going to make SAG weekly scale if that's not negotiated above that rate. It's only network, meaning like CBS, NBC, ABC, CW, where guest star has a number attached to it, which is top of show, which is now up to like $12,000 for 11 days, I think, which if you get that, if it's on a network show, then that's sort of like, unless you have a reason to be paid more than that, like that's what the guest stars are making. But if it's like a recurring, if we know it's going to recur, or if it's a guest star and it's on a cable show or Netflix or streaming where there's no number attached to it, then you definitely want to go back for more money. But the conversation that you have with the actor is different than the conversation you have with the producer, obviously. So the conversation you have with the actor is, are we okay if we draw a line and they can't cross that line? Are we okay with saying no? I think a lot of intermediate actors think that I want them to say that they'll take the work no matter what, because that makes them a team player. In some circumstances, that's right, because either your resume, you could really use this credit, or this is a casting director you've never booked with, or this is a director we know is going to direct cool stuff later. And that'll affect how willing to walk away from a job that somebody should be. But if it's just another nice paycheck, but you're somebody who's working, 12 times a year, once a month, you're getting an offer, or you're coming off of a recurring job. So it's like, there's a bunch of momentum there and you want to make sure that you're making the right steps. I like to know, and I'm always happy to chime in, but actors do they need to make insurance? What their situation is like outside of acting? Do you have another job? That kind of thing. I like to know if there's a line that the actor is okay with saying no, because that totally changes how I can negotiate. I'm happy to negotiate and somebody saying, don't lose this job. I'll go try to get as much as I can. But there are a lot of casting directors here where if you get offered what should be a guest star role or what is a guest star role, and they're offering at week scale, if I go back for like $5,500 a week, some of them will just say, no, let me know if we need to move on to the next option. If I have an actor who says that's what I need, and I don't care if I do this unless I get that, I like saying then move on, because then I get to really figure out what they're talking about.
Right. You get to see.
They're not. Yeah, because I'm always wondering what is the best thing I could have gotten here. But I'm also realistic about that, because I know that certain production companies operate a certain way and that sort of thing. One of the things that I found a lot of lateral and vertical movement with is like billing, the credits are going to be. So a lot of times you get the good thing about a number not being attached to a billing title on cable is, if I know you're going to be in 4 episodes of a 10 episode series and they're trying to do get co-star, they can bump that credit to guest star and put your name at the front of the titles at the top of the show without that necessarily costing them more money. And for some people, that's good recognition. That's like, if this is going to be on Netflix or something that's going to have a lot of eyes on it, having your name at the top of that episode, because it's very rare that people watch the end credits on those because it's already suggesting you skip to the next episode and that kind of thing. So getting your name out there in the front is good for actors' profile in a large sense. So if you haven't already had that for yourself 3 or 4 times, there's something to be said about like, there's value in that. So a lot of times if I get the sense that there's no movement with the money, I'll try to juice the terms as much as I can. And you can lean into that because it's like, come on, this is a good actor. They have the credits. You can look at their resume and know that they're going to show up to set and not ruin everybody's day because they can't get their stuff together. And then you'll save thousands of dollars by not paying anybody overtime if you have enough people on set that are like that. And all this is going to cost you is putting their name with 2 other names at the top of the show. And that should be, and if you have an extra triple banger, put them in a bigger trailer. A lot of times those are the moves that you can make, taking a co-star and making it a guest star. That's what I deal with most of the time, at least on the onset. If it's something where it's like they think you're going to be in 3 episodes and it turns out 4 episodes later that they're going to need you for 2 more, well, then it's like, okay, this was not properly presented to us, and you can sort of demand more money because they're on the hook a little bit. But anything that they're presenting to us up front, you try to negotiate in good faith. And I always try to get as much non-monetary stuff out of it, because there's a lot of productions who just aren't spending money right now. And I found that out a lot because
COVID.
I tell people no and they go away. And if that haunts the actor, then I feel like I didn't do the best that I could have done. But if the person's like, yeah, it wasn't the right fit, I've had roles released as guest star and then you get a co-star offer. And it's like, this was guest star in the breakdown. Like, what's going on? And they're like, yeah, they just can't do it right now. So you tell them no, and then you see what happens. And that kind of stuff happens rarely, but it does happen. And I like saying no to that kind of stuff because that's the only thing that's going to fix stuff like that from continuing to happen. But every actor, that might be the 3rd offer you get all year. I do 2 or 3 offers a day. So it's like, it's not that big of a deal to me. It's not as much of a deal to me as it is big a deal to you. It's a huge deal to me that I do a good job, but what that means for me on average can be different from what it means in any individual case with a single actor.
That was thorough. Yes. Okay. So network pays better is what I heard. We all put in our prayers in the chat about booking recurring guest stars on a network show. Amen. In Jesus' name. Whatever God you worship. So now that was a lot to take in. So people are not being generous, generally speaking. Sometimes things get downgraded. So even just what you're saying now, if in that last example, someone books a guest star, that was a guest star entitled, they say we only have co-star money, then you would go, okay, but can we keep the guest star title? Because at least being top of show would then yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. I mean, if I believe them that they don't have more money. So again, this is another thing that comes into the on average for me. If we're in the 5th episode of Panhandle or whatever, Outer Banks, I've had these conversations for 4 episodes already with these casting directors. So a lot of times I sort of know what they can do for certain types of roles and what they can't do.
Right.
So I try to I want my counter offers to casting to seem like I have a good bearing on reality. Like I don't want to,
right.
If you go in over the top, then they're going to be like, we're just going to move on. And then you have to come crawling back and be like, well, we'll take whatever. And I really don't like doing that. So you can't overplay your hand. The good thing about working as frequently as we do is that unless it's the 1st or 2nd episode of a show and we haven't gotten a lot of traction on it yet, for the most part, I know what system they're operating in and I can sort of leverage that in a way that makes sense. But again, I bring that information to the actor, but I would never make them go to set for less money than they would want to go to set for. And I would also never lose them a job or try not to lose them a job that on basis level that they really, really don't want to lose and can't afford to lose. So.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, ask.
I'm going to turn my light up real quick. Hold on.
No problem.
I'm
Questions
losing my
like that.
natural light. So this will help.
Yeah, it's been a whole journey since October. I'm on a different computer. I've got a webcam.
Nice.
Which I feel like used to kind of have like a mildly derogatory association, but like
it still does.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, you're right. But
No, I'm just kidding.
sex work is real work, and we're body positive here.
Yes.
So we talked about kind of co-star status. That was like guest star status, which is interesting and I think necessary. Maybe might be the most useful for a lot of people in this conversation, because a lot of people in Atlanta are finally being taken seriously enough to audition for those things, and then you don't want to say no to opportunities that you would be dumb to miss out on, but you also don't want to say yes because they know you have no other option. Because I think we've seen that blowed back in a social way, but I think also financially it's unfair because people need to have the availability to do projects like that. People are quitting their full-time jobs to do projects like that, but are not getting paid enough to replace that money. Which then perpetuates the cycle of like, oh, now I need another full-time job until I book the next recurring thing, which can get clunky for people. So yeah. Series regular, as we continue to pour our prayers into the chat, my series regular on The Boys is back. Now what happens?
Nice. Time for big money. No, so yeah, there's a huge financial difference if you're talking about like a traditional show with the series regular, not like a web series or something that
right.
It's in name only. The most important thing about a series regular is that they get a lot of what you do in their off time is now their jurisdiction. So you can go do like, and these are all negotiable terms, but they'll say like, you can only do 5 guest spots in our off season. And you obviously, anytime you book anything, you have to check with us to make sure it's not going to conflict with our schedule. Or it's 8 guest spots, only 5 of them can recur. So you can't be recurring in more than 5 episodes in anything else. These are normally like the basic terms that are presented with a series regular option. They'll want to negotiate built-in raises. A lot of times they'll come with like 6 or 7 seasons played out. So you negotiate that down to 2 or 3 seasons because you want to be able to renegotiate if the show's a hit.
Right.
It's easy to look at a standard series regular deal and be like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of money per episode. So the rest of the terms are sort of non-consequential, but you're not signing your life away, but you're signing a decent amount of your artistic license away to approval by a third party. So you definitely want to make sure you're getting into the monetary number where it's like, okay, if this is the only thing I do this year, is that okay with me artistically and financially? And different production companies have different attitudes about that. Tyler Perry, he's been one of the people who's given Atlanta actors like borderline series regular money, not series regular schedules, meaning his shoots are more compressed. He's not taking up 3 or 4 months out of your life. It's like 2 weeks. They've been very lenient. They've been really good with actors being able to parlay a series regular role with Tyler Perry into a series regular role on Netflix under a traditional. Yeah.
Philip, yes.
Yeah. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. So it's like you have to get out of that. And it's not always the easiest conversation to have, but he's been very gracious towards considering the actor's career, and he really cares about the actor and he wants what's best for them. And that shows in what he chooses to pay people and that kind of thing. Like he cares. So sometimes you look at the terms and it's like, okay, you don't want to break out of any of this, obviously, but that if it's not going to conflict with their schedule, they're not going to be combative for any way. And then there's other times where it's like they're really looking for control. So you want to negotiate all that stuff down as much as possible. They'll also a lot of times they'll say, okay, you're getting $45,000 an episode. That's going to be, 20% of that's going to be prepayment to your residuals. And a lot of times.
Wait, what does that mean?
So if you're a series regular, you'll obviously be getting residuals as it plays on. So if they'll say, let's say $45,000 per episode, and they want to say 10% of that contributes towards your residuals, $4,500 of your first residual check will already be considered paid as part of your upfront fee. So it's a discount. They're basically saying we're giving you this much money per episode, and we're going to take some of that money back when you start making residuals. And
I
sometimes
see. Okay.
sometimes it's like they're loaning you money
Yeah.
almost.
Did you see my brain melting out of my ears? I was like, does not compute.
Yeah. It's like an accounting trick sort of. And a
Mhm.
lot of people see that big number up front and they're like, this is a good deal. But there's fine print stuff that you want to look at to make sure that they're not, making 50% of your residuals prepaid on, or 50% of your rate prepaid on residuals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A lot of times we can negotiate that down. You get a lot of the same replies where it's like, oh, this is this production company's policy. This is all going to be, you still try to work them down as much as you can. But there can be things in the long form that come up that aren't brought up in negotiations. So, that's on me and people in my position to know where to look on those contracts, because again, the higher up the ladder you go, the longer that contract gets. So
And that's usually when a lawyer is brought in as well.
yeah, you can bring in an entertainment attorney to look at it. I have entertainment attorneys that I like to work with. They normally charge like 5%, but they're also, if you get a good entertainment attorney, they know what other people are making on that show or with that production house, and they really come in handy in the negotiating process. But yeah, I always leave that up to the actor. I'm fully comfortable negotiating a series regular deal, but if you want to pay 5% to have a lawyer come in,
Mhm.
there's a chance you'll make more than 5% more than what I may have known
Mhm.
I could get you, because they have like factual evidence of what somebody else is making.
And is that 5% like per episode going forward,
Yeah.
or of that initial deal? Okay, it's per episode. So
I
that's
mean, the initial deal is for all episodes. So yeah, if it's a 12 episode season, they may try to guarantee 7, and then we would try to get that bumped up to 10 episode guarantee. So all of the numbers, but yeah, for that season, they'll guarantee a certain percentage or a certain number of episodes, and then they'll build in incremental raises on the assumption that the project gets renewed.
Mhm.
So you want to try to shorten the length of years that they have that pre-planned, so you can renegotiate earlier. And yeah.
Okay. So just for me, the percentages, I'm still doing the math on this. So if it's 45K an episode,
Do 50. That makes the math easier. I don't know why I said a 40, like
I
a
don't know. I was
odd
with you
number.
on it. I was really
That is weird.
ready to accept it. If it's 50K an episode, 20% might go to residuals on the, what was the verb?
In advance.
In advance.
So like, yeah, if for the first round of residuals you were to make $30,000 per episode, you would make 20, because 10K of what they paid you to shoot the episode, they're considering a credit towards what they'll later have to pay you for actually using it after 6 months or whatever
Gotcha.
the term is.
So which technically kind of bumps it down. So you're really only making 45, but we'll say
Yeah.
50 still. So 20% goes to residuals. If you have an agent, that's another 10. If you have a manager, that's another 10.
Mm-hmm.
So how much money are we left with?
25 after tax, maybe 20.
Well, let's assume that that's an S corp, but they're
Oh yeah, true. But
we'll
don't go
assume
spending all that money.
Mhm.
You will need to pay those taxes at some point.
Yeah, so there's 25.
Yeah.
And then if you did a lawyer to help you negotiate it, and maybe it was still the same amount, that's another 5%.
Mm-hmm. But that's per episode. If you're doing 10 episodes, you're multiplying times 10. So you're still going to get $250,000.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're not done working for the
for
rest of your life.
$500,000.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
The write-off,
Yeah.
right? Because that's the tax part. I'm gonna have somebody come in, the exasperated side. It's real. I'm stressed over here doing math for a job I don't have yet. I'm gonna try and get my CPA to come in and talk about the way taxes work at a certain point once you're doing things as a loan out or W-9 work, whatever.
Yep.
But the Cliff Note version is essentially, if you are working as an employee of your own company and you're loaning yourself out to this production company, your company doesn't have to pay taxes up front, which gives you more room to use that money for expenses. And if you're accountants know what they're doing, then usually you can kind of balance that out where you're like, oh, well, I had to go buy, like for me, makeup because I had to maintain my appearance for when I do blah, blah, blah. Oh, I had to buy a plane ticket to go to such and such. So then this is and it's all, I had to go to this networking event and the parking cost this and the food cost this. And then I bought my agent a really nice bottle of whiskey and it cost that. Like, you gotta make all that work in your favor. So if you're a loan out, that's a thing. I can answer more questions, but I am not licensed to talk about taxes in a real way. So that's the series regular negotiation. Now, I'm curious. That would be Joe Schmo off the street might be able to negotiate up to that point. But is there a base for what it is? Is there such a thing as scale for series regular?
No.
Because what happens if you start at
so.
25 and then now they've got you back down to what is a guest star rate?
Oh yeah, they want to start at 25. They'll start at 17.5 sometimes. Like it's just, if it's Nickelodeon, they're going to start with 12.5. Like they're going to start wherever they want to start, and it's just a matter of like knowing what's what. Yeah. So you go back and you try. Knowledge is power. If you know what other people make. Mm-hmm. From that production company, then you have something to be like, this is what this should be. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the more having an attorney is good for that, obviously. But no, I don't think that there is a minimum.
Okay. So that's interesting.
I haven't encountered it, I don't think.
Because I think it is exciting to hear like, $30,000 every like 8 to 10 days. And then you're locked in, so you have to come back for, and mm-hmm. you have to promise you're not going to work other places. But the reality of that very quickly becomes, okay, I'm making 30, but I heard so-and-so is making 70 and I'm in the show more than them. So how does that stuff happen?
So I mean, if your character becomes integral to the story, you can say, this is a matter of equity on set. You don't want to get canceled now. You don't want to be paying my girl here 70% of what you're paying your boy over there. I mean, there's different ways you can have the conversation, but yeah, I mean, it makes sense unless somebody's like, a legit famous celebrity who's doing a couple episodes on the show, like those things are different. But if you're on par, you've been in the same number of seasons, that's not a super hard argument to make. But most of the time,
because that's what gets tricky, is actually hearing what somebody else is making.
Yeah.
And I guess my question for you specifically is, the agents know, if not the lawyers know. So how do we get into these situations where the men or the white people are making more than whoever else, and everybody knows what the numbers are on the back end, but nobody's saying anything?
Yeah, I have a good network of entertainment attorneys that I know that I've worked with in past deals. Mm-hmm. If I get an offer like that, I'll check with them to see if they know what's going on. If they have a really good idea of knowing what's going on, then I'll go to my actor and be like, hey, this guy's done 3 deals on this show already. You want to just bring him in? And then you're operating with complete authority. Mm-hmm. Because they're headhunters, so to speak. Like if I had 2 series regulars on the same show, I would obviously know, but that's rare. But an attorney can go around from agency to agency and they sort of live above it all. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, knowledge is power. I mean, that's for sure. But I would never want my actor showing up and talking about money on set. Like that's sort of, I don't know. Like, I feel like somebody in my position can go and figure out what that is without having somebody walking around asking people how much money they're making.
See, but you're also, we started off with, like a good person who like is invested, and not just like financially, but like kind of emotionally as well. Whereas I don't know that everyone is doing that due diligence as much as they're like, cool, the check is the check, I need to move on and do something else. Because we had the same conversation with Erica, we had the same conversation with Taylor about how like I happen to get really lovely people to come talk to me, but you guys are often the like exception to what it feels like is happening across the board. So heard. But also if people end up talking about what the rate is, like just be chill about it, not like.
If somebody brings it up, do you? But I would just, I wouldn't want my people going around and like instigating that kind of talk.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, if somebody asked me, I don't know how I would like, how do you in that conversation without being like, I'm not telling you that. I don't know.
Right. Well, and I think what happens sometimes, because I've actually been a part of a conversation like this, where it's upfront and it's like, what are you getting billed versus like, how big what are you getting billed? Our roles are the same size.
Yeah, one of the things that's like one of the ways that's most easily manifest is where you're billed, where your name is in the credits, and what trailer you're in. So it's like if there's a husband and wife in the story and they are, for all intents and purposes, equals. They're both Southeastern actors. They both got some credits, but they're not a face. They're not a name. Yeah, like if somebody's in a bigger trailer than you, that's a good indicator of like there's some discrepancy there. I've had conversations with casting directors who are like, oh yeah, if the roles are the same and there's a big discrepancy on set, we want to make that equal. And they're like, just let me know and I'll do my best to fix it. When I had that conversation, it was in theory where I was just asking the person like, how does this happen a lot? So, it's easy to say, just bring it up and I'll fix it versus actually being able to do that. But yeah, I mean, to me, the only thing the money makes a difference, obviously, but if the roles are equal and one person's names are at the end of the credits where nobody's going to see it and somebody's got a shared card with one other name at the part of the show where everybody's going to see, that's what's going to be, that's what's going to increase your profile.
So what gets done in those instances? Because I'll speak for myself in this, and we're getting to the end of questions, everybody. So you can ask your questions as well. I know when I was doing Black Lightning, I was billed as a co-star and I was getting scale. I found out very much after the fact that it could have been negotiated, maybe that I was on like at least a weekly, because what I was doing was very much a recurring guest star. I was in 8 episodes of a 16 episode season and the love interest to number 3 on the call sheet for a portion of those episodes, and had my own like character arc, right? So there's a point where I'm sitting in my trailer, I bump into somebody who who I know, and we're talking about our billing. He's in like 2 scenes for the episode and I'm in 4 or so, but he's a guest star, making guest star, top of show, and I was a co-star. And I don't even know that I was on the weekly rate. Like, I think it was spread far enough apart that like it was the day rate every time I was there, or they put like all my scenes in one day. So when that's the case, what are the options?
So
that could happen again, because that hurt
anytime I hear that sort of thing mentioned where it's like this person's getting guest star, if they're not like somebody who's done like 11 guest star, which I mean, that will ultimately lead you to be the type of person that I'm about to describe. But they probably got a co-star offer and said, no, I'm not going to do this for less than guest star. And if you want somebody to do it for co-star, go talk to someone else. And they found out that they were willing to give them guest star. And if you're an actor who needs the credit or who doesn't want to lose it, you're not likely to say that. And they know that. So it is a negotiation, but the only way you can leverage yourself in that negotiation is being willing to say no.
Yeah.
And that's not easy for a lot of actors. And if it is easy for you, it's probably because you have enough credits to warrant the credit you're looking to get anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Will say this, he was from LA.
Yeah. They probably said, no, this is guest star. And if you want it co-star, find somebody else. I mean, absence makes the heart grow fonder. That's a signal that you are of a high value. And again, I'm not talking to new actors. Right. But if you're somebody who has several recurring credits already on shows that people know about, you should ask yourself, what if I want these things, if I want the guest star billing, if I want the triple banger, if I want the title credits, at what point am I going to give my agent license to say I have to have this, and not send me into battle saying, let's get this, but if not, I'll take whatever? Because that's sort of the underlying assumption with Atlanta actors is that you need whatever offer is on the table.
Mm.
And you're probably right to think that if you're most people, but if you're not, I like that. I like having license to go say no, because then every day is not the same for me. I'm not just like asking, being told no, and then tucking my tail and accepting something. So yeah, I would, if sometimes if it comes through LA casting, I think Black Lightning definitely had an LA casting office.
Yeah.
If it came through LA casting, they were probably like, we want somebody good, let's come with a guest star offer, and they got that person. But if it came through local casting or even through LA and it was released as co-star, they negotiated for it. It wasn't just given to them, I wouldn't think.
Mm. I could keep talking to you forever and asking you a million questions. Let me mildly digress to ask my last two questions, and then we can open up the floor. Thank you for being so candid and for being so, well, knowledgeable, thank goodness, but also for sharing it, because there's so much missed. There's lots of gatekeeping and there's so much fog about what happens. And I have found for myself, at least, that sometimes the things I'm learning the hard way. And then going, oh, well, if I had known that, knowledge is power. If I had known that, then I would have asked for that thing, but I didn't know that thing existed, let alone would have tried to leverage whatever. Yes. What do you do to have work-life balance? Do you have work-life balance?
Sometimes I feel like I'm better at that than other times. But I don't. I am tuned in a way, like my brain. I like to do puzzles when I'm not working. Like I like to stay mentally active. Not that's not the choice. I'm not making that choice. Like I wake up and my brain looks for problems to solve. And
what do you like doing puzzles of?
Have you ever heard of Sporkle?
Yes.
Sporkle is a website where every day there's like history quizzes, science quizzes, geography quizzes. People just create quizzes. It's a fascinating website. It's like, it's up on my browser almost all the time. But I like stuff like that. I like trying to solve problems.
Oh, sorry, you meant puzzles, like riddles or crossword puzzles.
What did you mean? Like,
I thought you meant like, I'm gonna put.
I like those too. I like those too, but that's not like, yeah, I guess puzzle's probably not a good word, but it sort of is. I like crossword puzzles. I do the USA Today crossword puzzle every morning with my coffee when I'm like answering emails from the night before. So my resting level is like, I want something to do. A lot of my friends are like, I wish I could just do nothing today. I don't, that doesn't occur to me. So I don't do very well with work-life balance, but I try to. But yeah, no, it's served me. You know what I mean? Like answering emails at 10 p.m. over the course of 10 years has branded us in some way. So I try to just surf that, because, feeling like I'm, for whoever the person that I'm representing, I guess, in the context of being an agent, but it doesn't just apply to working as an agent. I get a lot of satisfaction out of feeling like somebody's experience was better because I did it rather than the next person. So I don't have a good work-life balance, to answer your question.
I'm sorry to bring that up. I hope that wasn't like a.
No, it's not. It's I know this about myself. It's like, that's the good thing about like this. And then wanting to
change
wanting to have a good work-life balance is a part of my like concept of what my future is like. I don't expect to be working when I'm 90 years old, but I don't know what else I'd be doing right now. It's still a very interesting thing. I know a lot of people who dislike their jobs, and that's like a constant reminder of like, if I let this go in some way, I'm going to be back doing stuff I don't like. So it's not that hard for me to sort of keep going.
I might be speaking out of turn here, but let me say this. You are the boss where you work.
Yeah.
You don't have to be worried about somebody firing you for not doing your job. You do it really well, and you're going to get to keep doing it as long as you want.
Yeah. I think I want to do this for a long time. Like, I do think it's interesting. It's something worthwhile. It's something that, again, makes a difference to people. So, Yeah.
So what does that transition look like for you? If we're talking about solving puzzles, like what do you hope your life is like on a regular basis in 5 or 10 years? Because you're in your 30s, right?
Yeah, I'm 33.
I was like, because ask that.
Yeah, I'll probably just be, you know, in a more executive position. My brother does a great job for me, so his role will probably expand in the company. I may end up bringing other people on. Like if I can be in a position where I don't distribute information, I don't reschedule things, I only negotiate deals. Like if I could do that, then like I could go do other things, and that's not. I'm not
Sorry, terrifying, Tiffany. I hope you're okay.
I'm so sorry. There's my little one.
That's all good.
Also, your child's name is Feeny, like from Book World.
Oh, it's Bryce. Her name is Bryce.
Oh, okay. I heard Feeny.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Go on.
But yeah, I forgot what I was saying. Honestly.
You were talking about being.
I was rambling.
Just being the one that negotiates and that giving you the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean that would be something where like if I have a family at that time, like I could coach my kids' basketball games and like just keep a more passive pulse on it, but still be, making meaningful decisions. But I don't know if I'll ever want to like give it up where it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's the most attached I'll ever want to be. Because if you get your audition notice from me or somebody else, that's not a big deal. As long as they know how to get you your sides and tell you when the deadline is, there's not a lot of variation in like doing a good job or a bad job. It's just more of a binary thing.
Right.
So maybe if I end up doing just things that are artistic in a business sense, that would be cool and would free up more of my time.
Copy that.
But that takes a lot of trust, like to bring other people. I trust my brother more than anybody else on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very easy for me to bring him in and like, I know what you're good at. I know you can do this, and he is good at it. So to think of finding a third person that I already have all that similar understanding, we know how we communicate with each other. That seems like it would take a decent amount of effort. It's just, I'll have to want to do it bad enough to actually do it. And I don't care about it that much right now. Honestly, I'm having a good time.
So my last question is, what brings you joy? But it sounds like it's Sporkle and your dog.
My dog is, he's the answer to that one. But no, I have a great family. I never got to travel. I'm one of 4 kids in Albany, Georgia. So it's like we would go to the beach once a year, which was like an hour away, but I didn't have like a broad sense of the earth. So in my adult life, I've tried to travel more. So I would say that the number one thing, as far as like a thing, if I could wake up tomorrow and do one thing I know would bring me joy, it would be going to the airport and going somewhere new. But then I don't get to bring my dog. So there's a little bit of loss of joy there. But yeah, no, new experiences, exploring, seeing the world, meeting new people, different cultures. Like it blows my mind every time I go to a new place. Like I went to Poland because I had 2 clients shooting a Netflix series there. And like you land in Warsaw, they were shooting in a small town in Poland. So I was like, I'm just going to go there for 11 days and figure it out. And like you land there, it's like there's this whole other world over here that I would like, who goes to Poland? Like but there are millions of people walking around and like they would never even think about me ever. I would never think about them, but here I am around them, like watching how they live and stuff like that. It's wild. So yeah, that's super interesting to me. It's like I'm trying to have as broad a sense of what's going on globally. It brings me a lot of joy.
Cool. So does anyone else have questions? You can drop them in the chat. I can read them out loud. If you'd like to read them yourself, that's also a thing. Amari, thank you. I didn't even have to finish my spiel. I will unpin myself and pin you. Well, let me pin you first. It gets clunky. Okay. So go ahead and ask your question.
Okay. First, Jacob, thank you so much for all of your insight. I did have a question because I'm not exactly like, okay, I'll put it this way. I'm still auditioning for like the co-stars, the guest stars, and trying to get into that field. But I still have some experience with like booking jobs where I do have to have like where there are contracts involved. Do you recommend like actors going out on their own and getting entertainment lawyers? Or like at least just like soliciting their services for like just like on a contract basis, or do you recommend like any resources for like language in contracts that we should be like looking out for? Is specifically like referencing what you were saying about like residuals, how they're saying like they're basically like paying like a premium or a discount so that they don't have to pay you later. Like, is there anything like whether it's like something Googleable or something like that where you can say like, hey, if this language is in your contract, be wary of that, for those of us who kind of have to do it on our own?
So you're
Yeah,
saying
so go
you
ahead.
also don't have you don't have representatives right now. Is that also
Correct. Yeah.
cool?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say is skepticism of a contract should not stop you from fully pursuing any work you can get right now. Like even a bad contract, as long as you end up getting your footage and you know where you're at, if you're still going for co-star stuff, that's gold. Entertainment lawyers are going to work on a percentage of your deal. So if the contract is $250 a day, they're not going to look at it. They may charge you like an hourly rate or like a flat fee. And if you want to do that, cool. But there are message boards actually, like, because sometimes like, so the SAG website, most of the time, those smaller projects are going to be non-union if like you really have real questions about the language in them. But the SAG agreement is really long and it's really wordy. So sometimes if I have a question, I don't remember the specific answer, I'll Google it and I'll find like these weird message boards that talk about like all the ins and outs of contracts and entertainment or language and entertainment contracts that they've seen. And most of it's stuff that I see all the time, but it is out there. But you may be able to get an entertainment attorney to look at something for like $100, but it depends on a lot on what the rate and what you're looking for. Sometimes it's just you got to sit down and read some really boring language and try to negotiate for yourself. It's tough to do if you don't know what's normal and that kind of thing. But with non-union stuff, it's the Wild West. I don't know if there is a really good answer for it.
I will say, I will say that there is a group on Facebook that is manned by Alex Collins. He's the administrator, the creator of it, and he's a wealth of knowledge. Lots of people. The approach, perfect, yeah. So if you have questions for stuff like that, then that's a great place because there's so many things that I'll ask or I've seen other people ask and I'm like, oh, me too. Somebody tag me when there's an answer. And that's a great place to find information. Lots of actor support places because there's all kinds of lies and bullshit and we try to sift through it together.
Yeah, but like general things to look at, like small non-union contracts, is how many hours a day they want you working. A lot of times they'll say like free post-production days. So you'll have a non-union project, be like, we're going to pay you $200 a day, and then you'll work for 3 days, and that's going to include 3 free days on the back end if we need to do pickup shots. They'll try to do stuff like that. But the good thing about that stuff is it's almost always in the first paragraph. So you don't have to work for free after you wrap ever. So if you see that and it's like, you have to come back and do this for free, but it's already paid through your day rate, most of the time you can be like, I'm not going to do that. And if they want to make a good project and they think you're the best choice for the role, they'll be like, okay, if we need you again, we'll give you your day rate. That's a big thing that they try to do, is they try to work in post-production is one thing, because if you're on a SAG project, there are
ADR
contracts that are, there's contracts that are big enough to where some of it covers your ADR, but with the non-union stuff, they'll try to get away with like wrapping you and then doing reshoots and then saying that it's already paid because you had a project fee, which was like whatever, $600 for 3 days.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Amari. Okay, Israel.
Hello.
What's up?
Question. When do you think is a good time for actors in the Southeast to consider going getting a new union card?
So it
Ooh,
costs money
good
to do
question.
that. So if you're cool, like if you understand like the upfront cash costs to do that, the major thing that I tell people is if you're not doing this for money anymore, because there's a lot of non-union commercials that'll pay you $1,200 for usage for 9 months, and then they'll come back 9 month after 9 month and try to renew it. You can negotiate more money and all that great stuff. There's a lot of money jobs out there that are non-union. So if you're ready and willing to walk away from the money stuff that you don't care about artistically, you just want to focus on the art, then you can go SAG whenever you want to. But if you're working a day job and you're looking to get out of having to do that so you can focus more time on acting, there are some non-union commercials that can help get you there. And it's not necessarily holding you back being non-union in the Southeast. I haven't experienced a discriminatory system for non-union actors versus SAG actors. I have people who work all the time who remain non-union just because they like to do non-union stuff for money. And they work on SAG projects all the time. So I also work with like Donna Belichick in Pittsburgh. There are union heavy states where it's like, if you go up there with 2 SAG credits, you got to join. Those roles we approach on a case by case basis, but if you're going up there to do a 3 or 4 day SAG job, I would say go ahead and join, and then you won't be able to do any more Bojangles commercials.
Not Bojangles.
Most people are okay with that though. Most people,
That drive to North Carolina though for C&J.
Yeah, dude, they're doing it. But sometimes they have SAG stuff too. So you won't get totally shelled, but you'll miss a lot of stuff.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Israel. Does anybody else have questions? Those are the only 2 people I saw up front.
Dre Bravo.
Yeah, where you at, Dre?
Right here. I don't know if that helps.
No, yeah, well, but I appreciate your enthusiasm. It is forever sustaining my joy. There you go. Hi.
Yes. Due to my anxiety, I came up with a scenario that I think Ashley might help a lot of us here. But let's say you put like a guest starring role in an episode that turns out to be a crossover. Okay, you know how the Arrowverse have crossovers on Chicago, and you're a guest star, but then you find out that role is in every one episode of the crossover. Technically, you're only in one episode of each show, but since they're connected, would that still remain a guest star, or should it be more?
So the good thing about guest star contracts is that unless you're like 5 episodes, you negotiate them in a block of episodes. If you booked a guest star on one show and then it crosses over and you find out you're doing 2 or 3 more episodes, it's a blank slate. So I certainly wouldn't accept anything less than guest star, anything less than your billing prior. So when you're making a lateral move, it doesn't make sense to like take your credits down. You can obviously renegotiate for more money, but I mean, that's a really good thing to happen, because a lot of times if you book a guest star on, let's say, Panhandle, and it's episode 4, they'll expect the terms to be the same when they come back for episode 6, since they're like, it's already guest star. Nobody's making way over guest star rate. Nobody's making a ton of money right now. It's the first season. When you make a lateral move to a crossover, it's a totally blank slate where it's like, yeah, we're at least making this, but obviously you guys are attached to what's going on with this character arc, and it's a form of leverage where the expectations of the static nature of the contract to persist over the course of one season sort of is gone, because it's a new production and all that. So I certainly wouldn't accept anything less than a previous billing on a crossover show, but it's liberating in the sense that you get to start over with a good floor to operate from. But if you're dealing with stuff like that, you're in a good situation.
All right. Thank you.
That was such a hype. Like I would have never thought of that scenario. Thank you, Dre.
It happens.
There's something that you said earlier that I wanted to circle back to. Oh, well, I wrote several notes. So I've always wondered, while we're waiting to see if other people have questions, I've always wondered about this. And there's something you said that like tickled my brain. So when you're a series regular on a show, technically you have to check in with your show, even in the off season, to do other things. Why?
So the short answer is for scheduling. So if you're a series regular on a show and it's shot from March to June and it comes out in November, you have a good, they're not going to shoot again before November because they haven't released the project yet. So at that point, you're contractually, there are limits to the number of guest appearances you can do on other shows. So it's like you have license to go do 8 guest spots and 5 of them can recur. You have to check to make sure that's not a conflict.
Mhm.
But if you're in the space after you wrap your series regular, but nothing's come out yet, you're pretty much okay to do it. The one thing where that can get sketchy is if you're like on a kid's show and then you're wanting to go do like an R-rated horror show. Like sometimes they can be like, we don't want this to be part of our brand. And then that's sort of a conversation. But yeah, it mostly comes down to scheduling. So like if it's November and it's dropped and they've announced another season, certainly anything that recurs, like if you got an option or if you got an offer to do like a 4-episode guest star on a show, we would have to go to whatever the series regular was and be like, these are their firm outside dates. Do you have a hard out that they have to be out by? They make the rules from the time perspective from which you're able to negotiate because you can't violate their timeline. Basically, they're paying you the episode rate to have rights to you whenever they need you.
Because I've always wondered why people, like someone's on a show and you never see them in anything else. And then I've been on set where I'm watching people and I'm like, oh, they're working on an audition for something else.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you trying to get out of this? But you want to keep working because sometimes I've seen things get canceled and the person hasn't done anything but that show.
Yeah, I don't stop people from auditioning for stuff. I have people who are series regulars who are auditioning right now for series regular roles on other things because their show hasn't been renewed yet. But obviously, if they audition and there's traction, then you reach out to the spot that they're on, and it's a good way to bring it up. But yeah, you can't run off on them. Basically, that's what it's built around. It's like you can't be unavailable to us when we need you if you're a major part of this story.
It's a marriage that has a hard out. So you got to be able to like talk in couples therapy.
Communication is key. That's one thing. Lapses in communication have been the biggest headache, the worst days of my career, all that stuff. It's not when people leave the agency. It's not when somebody doesn't get something they came really close to. It's when communication causes a breakdown and it becomes a problem for like 2 productions. So it's like, if I didn't communicate something effectively and now 2 people need 1 person in 2 different places on the same day, all of those things come back to me, right? The actors aren't telling casting when they're available. That's my job. So yeah, trusting that an actor is going to communicate with me the things that they need or the things that I need to know about their schedule, and then staying on top of making sure that's relayed to all the relevant parties is the most important thing. Me feeling like I did a good job of that is one of the top things that is on my agenda list.
No, I hear that. And when it comes to, I just completely lost my train of thought. It's fine. I don't remember. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, I had a good time. This was fun.
Oh, no, I remember what I was going to say.
All right.
So, is there anything that you feel actors should know that we haven't brought up? Period. Question mark.
I got one.
Yeah.
If I send you a file that's generally named where it's like NDA or W9 or general booking sheet, rename it before you send it back to me, because you have to understand the document that you're sending to me is going to be forwarded to production, and production's going to put it in a stack with 1,000 other ones.
Yeah.
So I would never let it come to me and then go out as unnamed, because then you're not going to get paid. I'm going to have to track it down. So I'm going to rename your files every time. If they're randomly named, I'm going to rename them. But it shows so much. It shows me that you're thinking about me. You're thinking about what I'm going to do with what you're sending me. when you just rename it, just put your first and last name and then describe the document. That goes such a long way for, it's like a matter, like you're being considerate to some degree. And I know when people don't do it, it's not because they're thinking like, should I do this? And they're like, nah, I'm not. Like a lot of people just don't think about that, but that's why you don't know it. But that's one of the things that I encounter every day where it's like, I just wish people understood somebody along this chain is going to have to rename it. Production is not incentivized to do that because if they lose something, they don't really care. So it's going to be me or it's going to be you. And you're already doing the document. So just do one more little thing.
That is clearly something that
every day.
Deeply.
It doesn't bother me. If it bothered me, I would not like my job because it does happen every day, 30 times a day. It happens because it's like, it's not just like booking sheets. It's like NDAs. It's all kinds of stuff where it's just like, all right. And it's one click for me and I rename it and I don't really care, but it's the same thing for you. Like you could just rename it too.
Yeah. Those 30 times add up.
Yeah. It's just like, you're not really thinking about where this document is going in the grand scheme of things amongst a million, everybody on production signing this NDA. If you just send it back labeled as NDA with a 1 in parentheses because you copied it, that's not going to.
It's funny, but I'm so tickled.
It happened. Everybody does it. Like it's a matter of like, some people are really good about not doing it, but it's like all have sinned. It's just in the grind of going throughout the day, it's going to happen. So just try to be cognizant of that.
The last question I wrote down, and we can truly say goodbye because it is 9:30, is what can actors do to make the process smoother in the offer outside of renaming the files appropriately?
Yeah. I can give another really specific example when it comes to Marvel SVOD projects. Right now, they have a very specific way of what they need you to do in order to send them your side, because they're not sending sides to me anymore. They're sending them directly to actors. So it's like the instructions are very specific and they seem counterintuitive, but trust the instructions. If the instructions are wrong and you follow the instructions and something messes up, I can just call them and be like, hey, your instructions are wrong. This is what I need. But a lot of communication, people just don't. I know you're excited when you get an audition, follow the instructions, meet the deadline when you can. And if you can't meet the deadline, either decline your EcoCast. And sometimes I can get an extension. So ask me. Like, if I don't want you to miss out on an opportunity because you have work that day. Like, I might be able to get an audition sent that night if I know that they're not going to have callbacks until like next Monday. So communicate, like, that's a big part of it. But yeah, read the instructions, be on time. Just doing those things will make you stand out across, on average, I would say.
Yeah, make everybody's job easier, including your
own. That's the thing. It does make your job easier if you're doing that for other people.
We actually have 2 questions come up while you were saying that, which
was okay, really cool. Cool. You guys are going to get a new background because I'm going to plug my computer in. So
taking a tour in Jake's house.
Yeah. All right. I'm standing. I'm in my power position.
How do actors connect with you or someone like you for representation? From Dorsey.
Email is the best. I get a lot of phone calls every day. If I don't know the number that's calling me, I don't answer it, just because most of my phone calls are from actors just wanting to talk and like ask questions, and that's cool. But I can't do that during the day. So email is good. Email your actors access link, because I see a lot of people who have great materials on their IMDb and in their portfolio in their email, but they have 2 headshots on their actors access and no reel updated, but they've got 3 lead credits on their resume. So I use actors access for 99% of my pitching, and I need to, first of all, know that you're committed to making that as good of a profile as you have the capability of making it. Like that's an understanding the system thing. And then if you have a reel, make it like a 1-click play thing. I'm not super interested in like personal details. I know a lot of people like want to like give their story and stuff like that. But when it comes to like evaluating somebody new, like I'm looking at headshots, I'm looking at like, is this somebody who's unique to my roster? or it could be like in a small category on my roster? Is it like more general? If there's anything unique about you, make that clear. If you speak French fluently, put that in the first part of your email. But yeah, email is the best, and then put the media in your email. So like a link to your Actors Access and a reel is perfect.
Okay. And I guess just for those who are now stressed about what not to send in an email, it's generally like hi, I'm so-and-so. This is why I'm reaching out. Here are my materials. I look forward to talking to you. And if
Yeah,
you know
or like
someone with that person, you might be able to refer to them, check with that person first, but like that kind of thing. But it's really that
or
simple.
where you're in class, that's cool. Like things that are relevant to like if you're working with somebody that I may know, that's cool. But like I don't necessarily care where you went to college, or I'll care about those things later, like when we become clients, if the relationship ever pans out. But I'm send an email to somebody that you understand to be very busy, and that I don't wake up in the morning thinking like I want to add new clients, because I've been doing this so long. I represent like 180 people right now, and probably 120 of those people I've been with for like 7 years. So I don't add a lot of new people because I'm so busy serving the people that I do represent already. So write the email knowing that that's going to be the mind state that I'm in when I see your email.
That's a great answer. Okay, wants to know, what do you think of active pitch? Also, what is active pitch? That last question was from me.
I don't know what it is either. I think I know what it is, but I don't know. I've heard people talk about it. Is that a web service?
He said his mic isn't working. If this is who I think it is, mic isn't working. So can you type quick?
Let me Google it real quick.
Yeah,
because I've heard people talk about it, but I don't think it's something. Let me see if somebody's in my inbox about it. Oh, that's not gonna...
Now that we're talking about pitching, and this is pivoting from talking about like the offer, but outside of the breakdowns that you see and you submit people on your roster for them, is it like a normal practice to go, ooh, this thing, like in what instance are you pitching somebody and having to like pick up the phone and call, or like send a very specific email about a particular person, outside of just being able to like, here's their headshot, here's their Actors Access?
Yeah, so one of my girls had a great scene on Stranger Things, and she finally got her real stuff together today, and she sent it to me. And when I got the new footage, like that's something very topical right now. So I looked at what was new, what was out there, found things that we'd submitted her for, but like maybe auditions are out, maybe they aren't. Just email the casting directors and be like, hey, this person's good for this. Here's a thing on a very popular show that everybody knows about. And it was a solid minute and a half. Like, it's great stuff. And then I got like 3 or 4 auditions for her just from like sending that out.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I mean, I looked up what active pitch is, by the way. It's like another service, sort of like, I guess, Actors Access. I don't use it, but I may look into it because I have heard people talking about it a lot recently.
Yeah. This is the description he just typed in. It's an online pitch deck web service similar to Actors Access that actors can link their representation to, except media is much more affordable to upload, and you can add.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess my question would be, and I would guess the answer is no, but I don't want to assume, are they doing breakdowns through that service, or is this something where you just have an external link that you can more cheaply have good materials versus Actors Access? Because sometimes most of my pitching is done through Actors Access. External link, cool. So yeah, I mean, if my clients said that they have that and they linked me to it, I would create an account. I mean, I'm such a nitpicky person about what's on somebody's Actors Access profile, that like I make sure that the best materials are on there. But if it's much less expensive and you have a ton of stuff that you wish could be on Actors Access, but it's cost prohibitive, I'll send a link for anything. But when I do direct submissions, as long as the link leads to something good, because I have a few clients who have their own websites that are really artistically done, they're into web development. Sometimes I'll just send that link to people if they're the only person I'm mentioning in a pitch I'm doing. But I don't have an account on there, I don't think. But I may make one if I need to make one. But if somebody can send me external links because they have an account, I may not need it.
I would think that's a pretty solid answer. I want to drop in, yeah, he says thank you. I want to drop in, speaking of links, a link to a survey. Some of you have come so many different times, and it would be lovely to hear any sort of feedback. If there's anything you want to know more about, anything that needs to change, and just general thoughts. I can't find it because I'm not on my computer. Oh,
If you say anything bad about me in that survey, you'll never work in this town again. That goes to all of you.
You'll never work in this town again. No, it didn't work. I don't know how to. It's Command C on a Mac.
What are you trying to do?
Copy the link.
Yeah.
There it is. So that's the link right there. Before we go, I would love it if you guys don't mind taking a group picture. I don't know if people are feeling not cute and don't want to, be in a group photo, but I'd love to take a picture of all of you. Oh, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Okay. Wait, why are we still pinned? Oh, remove spotlight as well. There it is. Okay, so I'm going to change my view to gallery. Everybody smile. We got couples in here. Okay. My little phone. I don't know how to screenshot on the computer, okay? Okay, wait, what is it? I know you guys would be supportive.
Somebody knows how to do it. That's the one that I have to Google every time.
It's like
Shift 4. Shift 4.
Okay.
Command Shift 4. How random is that?
You know what I'm saying? But oh no,
come on.
Differently. Okay, everybody smile.
I love to hate on it too.
3. I don't think it did it. Oh, I was pressing X. Hold on, one more time. I don't think it did it.
And then you have to drag it across. It's like one of
those. Oh
I
yeah.
have to drag what across? That doesn't make sense.
You have to like highlight the area that you want. No, I think
I'm using my cell phone. I've given up. Okay.
I think there's a print screen thing you can do. But I don't know how to do it.
Okay, I'll make sure I choose the one where everybody's the cutest. Thank you everybody so much for joining. It's a pleasure to see your faces. It's a pleasure to have your questions. Jacob, you're a cool fucking dude, man. And
Thank you.
I'm biased, but also now I can reveal, after all these months of hearing me talk about how dope my agent is this guy. And now you see why I like him so much. So yeah, I don't know, you don't watch these, but every month I'm like, yeah, well, my agent's not trash like other agents.
I'm gonna go back and watch them now.
They're nowhere for you to watch them. They're not on YouTube or the podcasts places yet. But in any case, thank you for coming. You're wonderful. For sure. This was so helpful, even for me, and I know I've learned quite a bit in this process. Sorry, people are texting things and I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing something. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Profound, for hosting this.
Adetinpo.
Yes.
Yeah, I found it. It's Command Shift 6.
6. Okay.
Yeah.
Izzy gave me bad. Knowledge is power, Israel. Okay, just one more time for me. Just. Yeah, somebody did it. Thanks, guys. Okay.
Nice.
Have a lovely night. Thank you so much. Jacob, are you comfortable sharing your email address?
Sure. It's just jacob@privilegedtalentagency.com.
Okay,
it's a very long domain. I didn't choose it.
So jacob@privilegedtalentagency.com. My email address, I'll drop in here too. I've had people ask really good questions. And generally speaking, I've also just had people ask for this to be able to watch it sometimes too. All that being said, some people do linger at the end, but we are done. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you next month, where I will be asking somebody who is tenured in the industry as an actor to come and speak on their experiences. Who is it? I don't know. I haven't asked anybody yet, but we'll find out here on Actor Nightcap. Have a nice night, everybody.
Should I pin myself? Is that going to make it easier for me?
Adetinpo is going to highlight you and herself.
Nice.
And then when they get to the question and answer, they'll like highlight whoever's talking to you guys.
Okay, yeah. I'll take my custom pin off then. See if I can keep my hair out of my face.
Come through, Izzy. Haven't been here enough to know how it functions.
Well, you said you were gone, so I'm just like, let me help him out.
No, I appreciate it. I'm back. We got Moe's for dinner. And of course, I came from taping an audition and got like 3 bites of Moe's, and now I have to go to bed at like 10 p.m. So that is the rest of my Moe's consumption.
Moe's, people sleep on Moe's. People talk about Chipotle and the other ones too much. Moe's is.
Can I address how wealthy I feel when I get Moe's and it's not Monday? Just decadent.
Yeah, having a reminder on your calendar for Mondays.
It's like, oh, is it Tuesday? I guess I'll go get a burrito.
Yeah, no cheese dip though.
Also, I'm glad they changed their meat because, okay, so when I was in high school, my senior year, anybody that got their senior portraits got a, like through the school, would enter in a raffle for free Moe's for a year, and I won that. That's the only raffle I've ever won. But I got so sick of their like food that I was just like,
Is he still there? Did he break up?
I think he may have been swearing and some sort of auto censorship kicked in.
No, I put it in my headset.
Okay, nice. That's the move.
Mose is watching, and they have sniped Izzy.
No, I couldn't. Like my burritos were tasting funkiness because like I couldn't eat their chicken anymore. It was bad. So I was gonna use all those burritos.
Was it like a number that you had, or was it just like one a day for a year?
It's 52, so you got one a week for the year. But they didn't really track like when you used it, so I would like go use it, send a friend in to use it. Like same thing with like Chick-fil-A, they just give you a stack of the sandwich gift cards.
Hate chicken. Have you guys watched the Big
The Bigot Chicken is so good though.
You know, it's always the places like where you're like, oh, your politics suck, but the fried chicken is popping.
Yeah.
Public, why you gotta do me like this?
Looking at Bojangles.
Publix chicken strips are unmatched.
Know what to sprinkle on those chicken strips. And honestly, the subs are unmatched as well. I don't know what
they've got a lot of good stuff in there.
It just, I don't know. It's blessed. It's giving fraud.
Okay, I don't know. We just agreed on this at the Renaissance Festival, Dre. Did we not?
About what?
Didn't we agree?
About what? We never
about Chick-fil-A. I think we agreed on Chick-fil-A.
I don't know how that got brought up at a Renaissance Festival.
It's got to be the turkey leg.
I don't know this man.
I don't know her.
Nothing to think to this man.
Like, Israel committed a time crime, and he kept being cussed out for it. So
he's being anachronistic, and the place full of anachronisms.
Yes.
Oh, the 20th and Doctor Who.
I committed one time crime. I didn't realize how old somebody I addressed was, and I was like, "Oh, this doesn't happen for another 20 years. Darn it!"
You told Queen Catherine I that she was not the first.
No, I didn't tell her. I told her Bard that.
Same difference. Same difference.
Hey, hi everyone, and welcome to Actor Nightcap.